There is a garden, there is a city, and there's a kingdom of God. And it is beautiful, and he is bringing it right now into our midst.
Well, hello everyone, and thanks for joining us. Wherever you are, know that you are so important to us, and we're glad that you are choosing to worship with us today at Living Word Community Church. If you are our guest today, welcome. I invite you to connect with us during the week on social media, and join us for our Wednesday night live online service on Facebook Live and on lwccyork.live. And by the way, please create an account on lwccyork.live so that you can participate live via the chat. We have great pastoral hosts ready and waiting to interact with you right now. So here we are, we're 3 weeks into our message series, How to Be All Right When Everything is All Wrong. Pastor Brian Rice inspired us the very first week, kicking us off with the importance of hope. And last week, Pastor Garrett spoke so powerfully on being, well, powerfully ordinary. And we hope this series is a blessing to you, and we hope it's encouraging you. And today, I'd like to start a conversation with you on the topic of patience. How appropriate, as we head into the week of Mother's Day, that we focus on patience. I bet some of the most patient people we all know are mothers. And this week, we really want to honor moms and say thank you. As a matter of fact, we would love for you to be a part of this and to participate by posting a tribute or putting up a picture or a shout out to your mom or to any great mom that you know on Instagram, and tag your post using the hashtag LWCCYorkMoms. Then your tributes will be part of an exclusive pre-service during our May 10th service. We'd love for you to participate in that way. Okay, so the topic for today is patience. And this is such a timely topic during these COVID-19 times, right? These have been times for all of us of learning patience, of practicing patience, of developing patience, thinking about patience, losing our patience, and finding patience. And all this is on top of a modern culture that is probably the most impatient culture in the history of the world. We have such amazing technology that makes it possible for you and I to order something from our phone on Sunday and have it delivered to our door on Monday or Tuesday. I'm not against this in any way. I mean, I love one-click shopping. Anybody out there? One-click shopping. But it really doesn't help me develop patience. How about you? And real life requires patience, right? And we live in a culture that actually undermines the character and quality of patience. So we all need help, especially during these times. But you know, I think the world has always been impatient. And early Christ followers thought that patience was actually the highest virtue, that patience is at the very heart of what it means to be a Christian. Early Christ followers believed that when believers make patience visible and active in their lives, that they demonstrate the character of God to the world. And that any form of the Christian life that doesn't actually teach you patience isn't a form of the Christian life. Well, I want to show you the unsurpassed resources of the Christian faith that we have in Jesus to develop patience. So let me begin with 4 verses from the book of James in the New Testament. And before I get to those verses, you know, James in the New Testament is an interesting book. Some think that it was perhaps the first book to be written in the New Testament. Others think that it was written very late, one of the last books written, but everybody agrees on this, that it was written during a time of intense upheaval, instability, and uncertainty. And I believe it's a book of the Bible whose time has come. And the wisdom of this book is so needed today. So James wants us all to take a step back and to reflect, to move toward attentive discernment and patient waiting on the Lord and patience with people. And so I'm going to read 4 verses from James chapter 5. And then I want to give you 3 things, what patience is, where we really need it in our lives, and then how we can develop it. So here's James chapter 5, verse 7 and 8, and then verse 10 and 11. Be patient then, brothers and sisters, until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, patiently waiting for the autumn and the spring rains. You too be patient and stand firm, because the Lord's coming is near. And then verse 10 and 11. Brothers and sisters, as an example of patience in the face of suffering, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. As you know, we count as blessed those who have persevered. You have heard of Job's perseverance and have seen what the Lord finally brought about. The Lord is full of compassion and mercy. Okay, so first, what is patience? Well, there are two illustrations here in the text of James, one rather general and one specific. The general illustration is that of a farmer, and how a farmer is one who waits. James says, be patient, like a farmer who waits for both the autumn and the spring rains. You know, sometimes the rains don't seem to come when you think they're going to come, and farmers know that. Farmers know how to be patient. Imagine if a farmer is impatient. Would it help? Will the farmer see a greater yield, a bigger crop, if he isn't patient enough to wait for the seasons and the weather and the land? Instead, if the farmer just tried to force things to happen, would it help him? Be patient like a farmer, James says. There's a lot of wisdom there for us. And then James gets real specific, and he says, now take the prophets, for example, and remember Job, James says. And so we're going to look at two prophets, Isaiah and Jeremiah, and then a little bit at Job a little while later in the message. But first, I want to mention to you, on Tuesday of this week, I checked in with my friend, Pastor Gordon Carpenter, our resident expert on the Bible's original languages. And I checked in with him on two different Greek words in this passage that I just read. Where you see the word patience in English, it's the word macrothemia, which means long suffering. Long suffering. Okay, then there's another word down in verses 10 and 11, which is the word hupomeno in Greek, which means to hyper stand, to just keep on standing, no matter what, to just keep on standing. If you think of those together, a long-suffering standing should give us some insight into what patience is all about, with the belief that God is compassionate no matter what the appearance is. Here's what patience is. It's graciousness and steadiness in the face of delayed gratification and disappointment. Okay, now what kind of patience do we need? Well, we need at least 4 different kinds of patience. We need patience with people, with life, with suffering and in suffering, and we need patience with God. So first, patience with people. Back in the fall of 2019, our daughter Evelyn got a puppy. A lot of people have been getting puppies during COVID-19 times. Well, she got this puppy back in the fall of 2019, and she named her puppy Franny. And we all love Franny, especially our older dog, big old Dublin. And you know how it takes a village to raise a puppy, right? And you can learn a lot about patience raising and housebreaking a puppy. Franny has taught us a lot about patience. And of course, along the way, you have to learn a lot of patience with each other, especially if somebody forgets to let Franny outside, like every 15 minutes. You know, puppies can teach us a lot about patience. But I digress. James is urging Christ followers to be patient with each other. And church, we need to be patient with each other. Hey, you know what? We're all there right now during these times. It's okay to feel a little out of balance. We really need to lean into church and what God is doing in all of us during these times, because we're going to get through what we're experiencing. God is still good in the middle of all of this. We didn't ask for this crisis, but we're absolutely going to make the best of it and come out better. Times have changed. We've all seen that. Maybe now it'll be easier for us to see our lack, see where our culture has failed, and see God and His love and His hope for us, and allow God to do a transforming work, renewing our lives and making us patient with each other. More and more, we need to have a calm, non-anxious presence with each other, and James wants to develop patience within people, within Christ followers. He wants us to develop patience with people, with imperfect, ordinary people who fail just like you do. You need to be patient with yourself. You're a people too. And you need to be patient with every person, even people you struggle to be patient with, people that give you trouble. And we're not very good at this most of the time. You know, it's no accident that the first characteristic of love that Paul describes in 1 Corinthians 13, that familiar passage, is what? He says, love is patient. And love, the Apostle Peter says in 1 Peter 4:8, covers a multitude of sins. Patient love covers a multitude of frustrations. So be patient with people, be patient with your children, with parents, be patient with spouses, with coworkers, be patient with your boss, be patient with essential workers, be patient with people who are out of work and who are struggling with these times. Be patient with your neighbors, with everyone, and of course, be patient with yourself and with puppies. Listen, here's the next thing I want to talk about is the fact that we need patience in life. This should come as no surprise. And this kind of comes out in the text in the illustration of the farmer. You know, the world and our culture really caters to our impatience. And yet, the fact of the matter is, nothing that's really worth anything in life is one click. Isn't that true? Remember earlier when I mentioned one-click shopping? Well, it needs to be said that no relationship really worth anything in life is one click. No skill really worth anything is one click. And no major accomplishment in life is really that's really worth anything is one click. The reality is that life, real life, takes a lot of patience. Well, so we need patience with people, patience with life. The next kind of patience that we need is patience in suffering. Patience in the face of real loss and grief. And it's interesting, the two examples that were given here in the text of James are the prophets and Job. Take the prophets, James says, and remember Job. Now, here's just two of the prophets that I want to mention, Isaiah and Jeremiah. Isaiah. God said to Isaiah, He said, Isaiah, I have a job for you. By the way, you can see this in Isaiah chapter 6. He said, I'm going to send you to preach the gospel to a group of people over the next 20 to 30 years, and no one's going to believe you. And Isaiah did it. Similarly, God came to Jeremiah, who preached at the time Babylon came against Israel in the Old Testament. And God said, Jeremiah, I want you to tell the people that right now it's my will that your country is taken from you, and Babylon will be the instrument of my chastening. So surrender. And no one will want to hear this. But Jeremiah, I want you to tell them this for the next 20 to 30 years. And Isaiah and Jeremiah never stopped. They were patient. And as a result, through great disappointment and difficulty and suffering, they triumphed. And we could go on and on about Hosea and other prophets in the Bible. And then, of course, James wants us to remember Job. Job lost everything. And yet, Job never stopped praying. Here's what the prophets and Job did in the face of suffering. They didn't go into themselves. They didn't get self-absorbed. And that's it. Suffering wins when we get self-absorbed. When we say, I can't do anything. I can't pray. I can't go out. I can't help people. I can't do anything. Patience in suffering just means you don't let it turn you into a self-absorbed being, but you love your neighbor and you talk to him and you serve him, and you love your God and you talk to him and you serve him. So, patience with people, with life, in suffering, and then patience with God. Patience with God. James says, be patient until the Lord's coming. He's saying one day God will make everything okay, but he's not doing that now, not yet. When we get impatient with God, we're saying, yeah, maybe God will make everything okay one day, but I want it to happen now. And this is the impatience, that leads to all other kinds of impatience. And probably the reverse is true. Patience with God leads to all other kinds of patience that are so vital in our lives. And then lastly, how can you develop patience? So how can you develop patience? 3 things. Know God is working in your present. Remember God's patience with you through Jesus Christ. And then number 3, look to the future. First, know God is working in your present, because he is. We need to process our disappointments through prayer and time with God. Job did this. So Job is being held up by James as a good example, a great example. But if you've ever read through the book of Job, well, it's quite long. And after reading, you don't necessarily come away thinking, Job was a great example. But here's the thing. The New Testament declares him a great example. The New Testament says that he is a person for us to remember. And really, the only thing that Job does right is he never stops praying in the midst of all the challenge that he went through. He feels the full range of human emotion, and he takes it all to God. Isn't that amazing? He processed his many disappointments and his suffering with God. And this involves being really humble and remembering that there is a God and you are not that God. I have to remember that. You have to remember that. We are so often impatient because we think that we know what needs to happen. But we don't. We are not all-knowing. We are not omniscient. And we just don't know what needs to happen. None of us do. And realizing this, practicing this very humbly, allows God to change us, to begin to renew us from the inside out. Listen to James chapter 1, verse 2 through 4. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. When trouble comes, it's an opportunity to develop patience. We don't look forward to trouble, but actually without troubles, we would never develop patience of any kind. And so while we don't really rejoice for the problem, usually, we rejoice in the problem. And patience in difficulty leads to amazing growth in our lives. In Job chapter 23, in verses 8 through 10, Job says some amazing words. Let me read them to you. He says, if I go to the east, he is not there. If I go to the west, I do not find him. When he is at work in the north, I do not see him. And when he turns to the south, I catch no glimpse of him. But he knows the way that I take. And when he has tested me, I will come forth as gold. That's something. Job is saying, I don't know what God is up to. I really don't. I can't catch a glimpse of him. But he knows what I'm up to. And when he's done making me patient, I will come forth as gold. That's why James says to us, remember Job. And so God is working in your life, even if you can't catch a glimpse of him every direction you look. Trust him. And then second, remember the past. Church, remember Jesus, who is patience itself. Remember Jesus' patience for you. In Hebrews chapter 12, it says that he endured the cross, despising the shame for you. That's that Greek word, hyperstand. That's my Jesus. And that's our Savior. He took it all for you. He was patient for you at the cost of his own life. Jesus is the ultimate example of patience. He's the prophet behind the prophets, the Job behind the Job. And finally, church, look to the future. Christians believe that he's coming back one day, and he's going to make everything right. All of your hopes, all of your dreams will be fulfilled. Mine too. And Romans 8 says that if you know he's coming back, then wait for him. Wait for him with patience.